Hello and welcome back to On the Soul's Terms. In this, the 105th episode of the show, I'm joined again by my mentor and friend, Brian Clark. 6 months ago, we recorded the entry episode to this journey where we reflected upon the first 6 houses of astrology, the beginning of it all, and the wanderings through the process of early development and individuation. As we make our way up across the horizon, we enter the second half of the voyage of the houses where we meet the other and enter the world. The episode was recorded in Brian's home office in Melbourne, where the two of us sat together in real time at the edge of the solar eclipse and the equinox. It was also the cusp of Brian's 76th birthday, a birthday that encapsulated the essence of the eclipse energy under which he was born. It's a longer episode than usual, but I recommend staying with it until the end. A through line of the episode is Ariadne, a character from Greek mythology who provides the thread for us to follow in our human lives. With this thread, she reveals the family secrets and follows the heroic impulse, only to be abandoned on the island of Naxos. Once abandoned by the heroic, she can fully join the realm of soul, making her way to the middle of it all. A participation mystique that connects her journey to Anima Mundi, the soul of the world. The second half of the houses moves through the meeting of the other in the 7th, into the underworld of the 8th, the inspiration of the 9th, being shaped by the world in the 10th, the communitas of the 11th, and finally into the hidden dimensions of our deep interior reality of the 12th. If you haven't yet, I would recommend listening to our introduction to the houses 6 months ago, the companion to today's episode. You can find out more about Brian's work by going to astrosynthesis.com.au, where he has countless essays on psyche, mythology, and astrology. And now, here is our conversation from Melbourne, recorded on Sunday, September 21st, 2025.
Well, hello, Chris, and great to see you, and great to have you in my home office. I'm missing that intro, your music that you usually do. Da, da, da. I can't hear it. Where is it?
It'll be there. They'll hear it.
They'll hear it. Oh, God forbid I should hear it.
How are you today, Brian?
Well, I had a lot of dreams last night, so I'm feeling,
interesting.
Yeah.
Any fragment?
No, I can't remember them.
Not even a fragment.
No, I think I worked through them in the night.
Okay.
So it was a long night, and of course there's a lot of wind, but having you here is great, and it makes me feel better. So I'm good. I'm good. Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time. We're on this Sunday. It's also, there is something else special about this time of year in that, well, I put it this way, that Brian has a 0-degree Libra sun, born very close to another quite...
Don't.
Okay. Who are you born close to?
You mean in terms of having an astro twin?
Yeah, an astro twin.
Yeah. Nobody ever believes, because Bruce Springsteen was born 20 minutes after me in New Jersey, I think it was, and I'm born in Belleville, Canada, Ontario. So it's not far away, and only 20 minutes difference. So we have pretty well the same chart. Yeah. And yes, but I can't sing. So
it's a pretty amazing claim to astro twin fame.
It is. When I'm desperate, I think of that. But yes, you're right. I was born in the equinox, and so this year my birthday.
To run.
Yeah, I was born to run. And so we do share that. And born in the equinox, and so of course this year I have an eclipse on my sun for my birthday. And as I was telling you before, in terms of a cycle, the 19-year Metonic cycle where the new moons repeat, the last 4 of those new moons in my life have been also eclipsed. And so I'm 76 tomorrow, the next day, and I look back on 4 eclipses, cycles of time.
Yeah. Remarkable. So 4 eclipses. So maybe you can elaborate on that slightly. So it's like every 19 years, were you saying, you get one of these? I mean, you personally, in a way.
Well, Well, you have three sort of cycles, as I mentioned before, that we could deal with. One is the Saros cycle for eclipses. So eclipses happen in patterns of 18 years and 10 days. So there'll always be, there's always 2 solar eclipses a year, and they always have these patterns. And they move through this amazing image on the globe. It's almost like a Ouroboros. The eclipses, the way they follow the from the North Pole to the South Pole. Then you have, of course, the nodal axis, 18.6 years. And then you have a metonic cycle, which says new moons repeat themselves every 19 years.
Right.
So if there's a new moon today, 19 years from today, there'll be another new moon. Now, about 75% of those new moons, if there's an eclipse, there's a 75% chance they'll be eclipsed again. And they can last in patterns of 3 to 5 times. So for me, I'm born right on the new moon. It wasn't eclipsed, but when I was 19, I had the eclipse on that new moon, and then the next 19 years, and then the next, and then the next, and that's the last one.
Right.
So yeah, it's a kind of.
And are you saying that that's that this 29-degree Virgo new moon?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your new moon, even though you're a 0 degree.
That's right. Exactly. I was born on. So all of us are born under a lunar cycle.
Yes.
I'm a new moon, and so that's going to be within a few days of my birth.
Yeah.
So I have always encouraged the students to look back to the new moon before their birth, because that's the seeding point for that cycle that they're born in, isn't it? So especially when we deal with progressions and so on, it's a very interesting seeding cycle. And so that seeding cycle was in Virgo. Now, often it's either going to be in the sign before or your sign.
Right.
When it's in the sign before, I think for that first cycle of your life, it sort of bleeds through,
Yeah.
How do we get on this topic?
Well, I'm loving this topic, but it's not our topic.
No,
but funnily enough, speaking of that, last time Brian and I were in an interview, which is, people still go back and tell me about that. They've listened to that many times. Our first half of the houses, because it was really rich. I mean, we went through so much material, and we were really just in a freestyle moment, weren't we? We didn't even really know we would go through half. But
we didn't. No.
We kind of got like to the 4th, and it was like, oh, let's not do it all in this one hit, and let's get back together. Right. Not knowing that I'd be sitting here in Melbourne, not knowing that it'd be the eclipse, equinox, birthday extravaganza that it is today, not knowing any of those kinds of things. So, I mean, this is the way that astrology works, isn't it? It's so mysterious how it comes together.
Chris, that's exactly it. I mean, we can end the podcast now.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Basically, that is truly the way astrology works, and I can say that now in my life, and I can celebrate that.
Yeah.
And I'm still surprised I could remember all those things about the eclipses and so on, but that is the way astrology works.
Yeah.
And just to realize that there's those incredible cycles, and when one lives within them, or one has a way of life about them, that's what happens.
When one lives with them or has a way of life about them, because I think that's really the key here. It's like, it really is this idea of participation mystique, and I feel kind of like a bit moved by it right at this moment, because it's so remarkable. It's so remarkable, even as I've sort of set off on the quest of this year to explore the houses, right? That seems a simple enough thing to do. I do a podcast, one solo, one with a guest, and one on a fairy tale. And it's just remarkable how much it's been living itself through me. It's not wanted to just be like me talking about a thing. It's wanted to be talked through me, And that's really odd. There's no, I love it, and it's really odd. You know what I mean?
Well, I do. Very much. It's odd because it's not what the standard is. It takes a form of courage. One has to step away from the herd. You're not going to leave my front door and tell the next person in the street that, because they won't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of sense of privacy, but when it moves through you, you know that happens. I mean, even when you arrived today, all these things happen. The book that I had for you, you already had, but you I just photocopied it for friends so I can give you a fresh copy.
Yeah.
The podcast that you just did, before this, I just seen the title, and we talk about all kinds of fur as a fairy tale. Like, so we live in a world that is synchronous.
Mm.
And we don't try, I don't feel we try and make some meaning of that synchronicity. It just is. It's like, I'm not going to try and make meaning of these 4 eclipses in my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here in awe that they actually are occurring, and I'm in them. They're in me.
Yeah.
I'm in them. And whatever they want of me, well, that will obviously play out.
And it's like questions like, what does it mean? And another question that I've received quite a lot, which I'm sure you've received quite a lot, is it good or bad?
Yeah.
It seems so silly in the end, and it's painful because I'm like, oh, if you watch it unfold though, and if you participate with it, it's incredible. And if you stand apart from it and demand of it to tell you something, then it veils. Actually, what it does is it veils itself. It has no obligation to you to not veil itself. To reveal is reveal, right? It has no obligation to you. And I think once you realize that element of the mystery, there's a natural humility. It's not like a effort. Then it's just like, it will not reveal itself, and if I come at it with a certain demand on it.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's living us.
Yeah.
And so we are, I think, obliged to live it.
Yeah.
But most people haven't yet had that kind of sense of understanding. One is called. I think when one's called, one takes the effort to go on that call. That's the experience of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we began with the first half of the zodiac, and I think something that you said just before we got on the air is about sort of returning to the beginning and sort of coming back to where we left off in a way, because we're just reaching back up to the horizon after going from the first house and the ascendant, the personality. It all begins into the first, and we head down and we go through those first 6 houses, which we elaborated on in our last episode. And we come to this first point of polarity, opposition, the descendant, which matches the ascendant on the opposite side. And so maybe we can linger here, as you said, at the horizon, just to spend a little bit of time of like where we are before we just kind of launch, because there's something very sacred. I've been really feeling into this point between 6th and 7th, and how, I mean, it's been a while that it's been seeding in me, Artemis and Aphrodite, the different kind of energies that represent 6th and 7th, the meeting of this mythical, magical, strange other. And then I feel like if we can just hang out here a bit before launching to get a sense of like, where is this place?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, just the words ascendant, descendant. Now, because when you were describing starting the ascendant, we went down, but the word ascendant says to go up.
Yeah.
And the word descendant says to go down.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going up.
Yeah.
And again, this is, of course, the 2 directions of life, and we've been talking about those even in our beginning. So just to go back to that idea that the clockwise movement of the planets, of course, is the ascendant. Planets move across up, but this is pre-birth. This is the way the planets move. But once we have a horoscope, it's fixed in time. I mean, the horoscope you had as a kid is still the horoscope you have today, and still the horoscope you're going to die with. And like, it's like people go, "Oh my God," So it's like it's a dream of life, and in that dream, the planets go the way that you've mentioned, don't they? So that's what we're following, the trail between first. And we've arrived now at this point that is the descendant, the setting place. So if we linger, as we say, on the horizon for a moment, let's linger at this idea of setting. What does it feel like for a planet to set? Think about at night, on the western horizon, if you see a planet, the way it's setting, it's beautiful. It's close to us. You can think about especially Venus. Now, that's the one that just, you mentioned her, because when she crosses that threshold from the 7th to the 6th, or she goes down, she's bright, she's close to the Earth, she's about to have a conjunction, she's going to go retrograde. There's all kinds of things. And so if you think about that setting place, what you think about is, to me, you think about other, as you mentioned, and meeting the other. And so we meet the other at the 7th house. That's why Venus is interesting. But the other is just not outside of herself. It's inside herself as well. And that's what Jung said. I wrote this down before I wanted to mention it. He says that life requires us to have a new openness to the other. And the other that he suggested was the unconscious in all its variety of forms. So meeting the other. So Chris, it's very interesting. And if I may, you have Sagittarius rising.
I do, yes.
I have Gemini rising.
Yes, right.
I think your ascendant, what degree is that? It's around 12?
12.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is 18. So it means that your ascendant is my descendant's your ascendant. So we meet. Here we are meeting. There's another thing we can throw in the mix.
Yeah.
We're sharing this.
Yeah.
So meeting the other is all part of the horizon. Very different experience in the meridian, which is meeting something else. But along this horizon, we meet. And I'll just say one more thing, and then I'm going to stop. But you mentioned Venus and Artemis, or Aphrodite and Artemis. And when you think about the meeting that might occur on the descendant, is the meeting between the other, which is love, and the meeting of the Artemisian quality, which is our own internal love, the sense of, I like to call the 6th house on the way to the wedding. You know, the 6th house is that on the way to the wedding. It's how we prepare. It's like, you got to be a virgin really to go into a real relationship in a real sense, because you want to give yourself away. There's no doubt about it. In the 7th house, we want to give ourselves away, but we don't want to give it all away.
Yeah. The secret chamber, or the inner sanctum, or the something sacred to the self.
Sacred to the self.
And that beautiful self-containment that's in the 6th, and yet, as you say, give it all away. And this is why that Artemis-Aphrodite tension, maybe Artemis being more lunar, and Aphrodite being Venusian, the tension between those and the stories we have about those, you know, like I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I've done an episode about that with Hippolytus, and he gets torn apart, you know.
He does get torn apart. But then again, he is also part of a whole family lineage. It starts way back in Minos in Crete.
Oh, wow.
Well, where Ariadne watches Theseus. And
course.
she falls in love with Theseus.
Yeah.
And Phaedra, the sister, is also watching.
Wow.
So we can go all the way back to that story. So we got to realize as we go into the 7th house, it's not just a story of me and you. You know, you bring to your story all your family, all your ancestors. I bring to my story all my past and all my ancestors. And, you know, and that's what's so powerful about this particular place, that descendant. You know, in Mesopotamia. Thank you. You good. You know, they you know, the Babylonians saw that as death. Why? Because the sun, when it set, it was invisible. Like there it was, it just disappeared. Where did it go? And so they often saw that as death. And Manilius, which of course was before they sort of put the joys of the planets, he called the 7th house the descent of the portal of Pluto.
Really?
Yeah, the portal of Pluto.
The portal of Pluto. I love that.
Yeah, Manilius' work. So there's a kind of a sense, I like to call it the Hesperides, like it's the western side. And if you think about the Red Book and when you know, the monster's looking for the West, while we're looking for the West because the West was always a place that was going to be there was something there, something eternal. The sun was setting, was drawing us towards some particular end. There was something sacred about that.
I'm being from Perth. We do stare out at the sea for the sunset, over there, which is a beautiful way to stare at the sea. Also, over this side, you could stare at the sea to see the sunrise. And that equal opposite sort of thing, the way that the ascendant is going down and the descendant is going up, and it's a beautiful thing just kind of staring at the sea.
It is.
I don't know if you've seen the moon set over the sea before, but it's one of those things where like a full moon set over the sea, you're like, yeah, I must have seen that thousands of times. It's like, no, we don't. It's actually, there's very special moments. Yeah. And when you do see something like that, it's worth having the reverence for that kind of moment.
You're just reminding me now, and when Gladys and I took a safari in the Serengeti, and it was the full moon, and we watched it set over the Serengeti, this plain of the Serengeti, as this whole herd of elephants came through the camp.
No way.
It was like, just seeing an elephant was sacred enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, those moments. So, and I think if you're a sunrise, I'm thinking of a sunrise I saw at Assisi. I got up early and climbed up and watched the sun rise over Assisi and set over the Serengeti. I mean, it stops you. It's so beautiful. It arrests you. And this is the horizon. This is our promise of life.
Yeah. And there's something about that occurred to me when you said around the descendant, this is where things are setting, and it's like, oh, what are we setting up for? What is setting itself? What is the setting in a way, like in a way, I remember Ram Dass talking about in the psychedelic journey, it's all about set and setting. It's all about how you're setting up the journey, right? And it is like there's something going on, and I love what you're saying about the sixth house being on the way to the wedding, and a wedding, which has that image of kind of wedded, suddenly coming into the fabric like like Penelope, I guess, like the threading and the webbing and the weaving going on that happens in the seventh. And it's like, well, what are we weaving? Are we doing it kind of like haphazardly, or have we spent some time in the sixth to prepare? And maybe we could put a little context of like, what is this myth? What is this other that we're referring to, Because as you say, like you and I have an other, and then you have the other of love, and then you have the other of, I guess, people that you go into endeavors with, and you have, there's lots of sort of other. So I want to sort of have a broad stroke here for this place.
Okay. Ooh. Well, I just had another synchronicity because I want to quote Marion Woodman, who we were talking about before.
Yes.
Marion Woodman said, "We marry our own shadow." And so we could start with the other thing.
Let's start with that one. Let's start with that.
So the other in descendant, and one of the things, when I was young astrologer, one of the things I saw about the seventh house, I love the seventh house. It was one of the first lectures I ever did, now that I think about it, was on the seventh house. And I called it What We Give Away in Relationships. And so I went through every planet in the seventh house as it's like, oh, this is what you're going to be projecting in your relationship. Anyway, I mean, it was a good theory, but look at, so when Marianne Woodman said that, if I go back to this idea of the seventh house, just the sign on the cusp of the seventh house. So your Gemini sitting on the cusp of the seventh house is like an otherness, an other. It's like, and you see that outside of yourself, and you're attracted to it. And it's a quality that you're attracted to. Why? Because it's so profoundly setting in you, but you haven't yet perhaps recalled it, and this person's recalling it for you, or bringing it back, or remembering it for you. But when we're unconscious of that part of ourselves, this person plays it out for us. So that's a very profound way of thinking about the otherness in the chart.
Yeah.
As it's the mirror, it's like a mirror. It's like the looking glass in a way. But how do we see through the looking glass? By looking inside us and seeing what's the quality in us. And And I do think even that original lecture I did, the planets in the seventh house, can also give us a lot of clues about the energies outside of ourselves that, that we're still trying to find inside.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like the I am and the I am not axis.
Yeah, yeah.
And the more, so we look over there to the west, it's like, well, that's definitely not me over there. And then the astrology gives us the beautiful hint, the beautiful clue on the cusp of the seventh to say like, and it is.
Yeah.
And it is, yeah.
And it is. And in my early days, as I was saying, I used to make this broad statement. I think it'd probably be true that your descendant sign, there's about 70% for me of the people I see seem to have in their relationships a partner that has the sun, moon, or another axis or the nodal axis, in that
spot.
In that spot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
and, this, and it seems to pull us out. Now, if we just walk out there in the world, every single person on the street is going to have contacts to our horoscope. But the seventh house contacts are really pinpointing that other.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking at?
I'm just taking a pause because I'm trying to sort of get into this. I also find the seventh house to be, I guess once I was first learning the houses, it's like, oh, this seventh house is just an interesting place. It's just an odd, like it, I think what it felt like to me was it gave me a glimpse into something that I wasn't quite sure how I would find without something like astrology, like it gave me the mirroring that's going on in the seventh is something that like astrology gave me a symbol to work with of something that otherwise may remain really unconscious because it's so not in my identity, that thing over there. Even though I know that it's me and I can feel that it's me, the way that it gets disidentified from the self was really quite almost a magical thing to see this, like to have that mirrored back. And so the entrance into the seventh is something, I find it a very mysterious. And then you sort of read the textbooks as like, oh, it's relationship. It's, it's kind of like, it's the other, it's relationship. You get a very, you could just be in a few key words around it and not get drawn in by the mysterious nature of this particular house.
Well, the ancients, I part of the Middle Ages, astrologers saw it as the house of the open enemy.
Oh, interesting.
And that's why I like Marion Woodman's, you marry your own shadow, that there is also a very strong shadow quality and I use that word. It's hard to use a word these days because there's so many different ideas about it. But when we say shadow, it's just if you think about when the sun sets, there's this umbra, there's this shadow. And when you see a shadow, it's misty, it's not clear. And so the seventh house is never clear. It's oftentimes exaggerated or oftentimes denied, so it's not clear, it's misty. And that's what I love about it. And as the planets set, oftentimes clouds gather around the horizon, just they're sitting in that mist. And that's, I think, very much seventh house is what we see, the qualities of that seventh house are oftentimes quite misty. I do think they're very hard to see inside ourselves, so we do need that sense of conversation with it, otherness. But I guess the question, like what Jung says, is what is about the otherness inside of ourselves?
Yeah, let's go into that a little more.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too about the seventh house is the sense that, to me, it's a house of equality. So it belongs in that trinity with the third house. It's the seventh house and the 11th house.
Yeah.
I like to call it, sipship, partnership, friendship. Like there's a kind of sense of equality that's in the seventh house. I want to be equal. And so I want to be equal. I mean, you and I we have an age difference, we have all that kind of stuff, but we can still find equality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it has nothing to do with age, it has nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with race. It has to do with equality. That incredible sense of equality, which of course is found by being in the sixth house, by knowing your own self. Taking that out into the world, you can start to find equality.
That's why I think, as we've said, lingering on the horizon, because there's this movement forward and back. There's this gentle kind of like, I mean, we talked in that last podcast with Ryan about pendulating, and I think there's that movement back and forth over this point, because ultimately we're saying to the other, hey, can you just hold this for me for a second?
Yeah.
And then we may just kind of go, hey, what are you doing with that? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, we got to remember, we are saying with the seventh, can you hold this for me? Like, I really need somebody to hold this for me, to play with this, to work this through. I want to be able to see it in the mirror, you know, because without mirroring, I mean, this is, I think, the beauty of the myth of Narcissus, right? He didn't have any mirrors. The prophecy at the beginning of his life, which was that he'd know himself so long as he'd live a long life so long as he never knows himself. And so mother protects him from all mirrors. And so then he doesn't get himself mirrored back to him.
Well, it is, and it's very, very interesting because the fifth house is a mirror as well. And the seventh house is a mirror as well. But in what's sitting between them is, as you said, the sixth house, which is where we I guess when the mirror starts to, we step through the mirror, perhaps. Mirrors is interesting because we can reflect ourselves back through another.
And there's so many mythic images that just pop to mind about the mirrors, and they're like through the looking glass with Alice, or you've got Medusa and the mirror shield, and all these different kind of like mirror images.
Well, then if you think about the just the symbol for Venus, the glyph, it's a mirror, isn't it? It's a mirror.
And one thing I didn't tell you about the place that I've moved into, because as a stalker of Brian, I've moved in around the corner, and I'm staying in an Airbnb. And I walked in, and along the wall of this Airbnb are mirrors. And the first one was a hand mirror. Like the whole wall is just mirrors. So I'm like, I've walked into this place late last night, and I've just walked along this wall of mirrors, which I found to be a very potent image to sort of bring with us as we enter.
Well, there is so much to say about the seventh house, you know, because it's like we think about it as a partnership, but partnership is not always connected on emotional or sexual love. It can be friendship, you know, it's psychological, business partner.
Yeah.
You know, it can be, it's two people being equal, working as a team. It can be two siblings too that have grown up together too. You know, there's a kind of a sense, and they work as a team. So there's a kind of a contact there. It's like, I guess as we move into the eighth house is where you start to then you move now onto another cusp, into another, which that does start to include the emotional, psychological, intimate area. So it's like, if we think about the horizon, it's still equal, aren't we? You know, you're there and I'm here. It's an opposition.
Yeah.
You're the enemy.
Yeah.
I can see you. See, that's the open enemy. But once we start to move across into the eighth house, I can't see you as clearly. I can't see you as directly, not as clearly as directly.
Yeah.
There's another opening.
Another layer. A big layer, maybe another series of layers, because we enter into, I mean, it's kind of like the symbol of Libra to Scorpio, right? That you enlightened me around, which was that the claws of the scorpion are the scales. And so when we move through this next cusp, we enter into really the underworld, don't we?
We certainly enter now into that sense of unconscious relationship.
Yeah,
deeply. Because what's happened, I guess, as we've moved through the seventh house, we've shared a sense of equality, and now we're sharing a sense of intimacy. That's why, you know, in the seventh house still, if you just think of the seventh house, quite, you know, when I look at a chart that would have a planet like the moon, say, in the seventh house, or Saturn, planets that are more dependent or more, you know, hierarchical, that's going to be hard in a place of equality, isn't it? And also just quite interesting in a chart when you have no planets in the 7th house and then lots in the 8th, people just want to rush through the kind of dating into the, let's get right into it, or people that have all those planets in the 7th, not one in the 8th, they sort of linger in the kind of dating. So I'm not saying that is the way it is, but it's an image that I've seen. And so there's a kind of a sense when 7th house is that sense of dating, getting to know you, liking each other, having some arguments and working them through. Conflict's part of the 7th house, part of a relationship. Mm-hmm. But you cross that cusp into the 8th and all of a sudden you're naked.
Yeah.
You've told me something that I'm a bit shocked by. I can't believe you did that, Chris. I don't know. You really shocked me here.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like sort of. And how do I deal with that emotionally, psychologically? How do I keep my relationship with you intact through all of that?
So I get, as you're saying that, like a strong, charged emotion comes, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, whoa, and then. Yeah, and then this is a bit like Hippolytus, isn't it? Torn apart, taken to the underworld.
Yeah.
And the feeling of all of those kinds of songs, which can bring us into that love will tear us apart again. That feeling, and that, I think it sort of touched. That song just really touched on the zeitgeist of the time, and of course it did tear. What's his name? The Joy Division guy.
Who was it?
Joy Division.
Oh, I thought it was Michael Hutchison's.
No, but that you would never tear. What is it?
Oh yeah,
never tear us apart. But the tearing apart kind of image, or the dismembering, or we get Orpheus and Dionysus and other figures, and Hippolytus and figures who get torn apart. Pelops,
Attis.
Yeah.
Oh, also young man, eh?
Also who?
Young man.
Right.
Don't do too well at love.
Indeed.
But what you said, I want to go back to Chris, is what you said was love will tear us apart. So you went to love.
Yes.
So there's something about, there's certainly love in the 7th house, no doubt about it. But it's love as equals. It's just now when we find ourselves unequal, can we still love? Can we love? And one of the things, now that it's come back to me, I always say in the first class when we're doing the 8th house, is like the 8th house to me is loving in the face of loss. Can you be brave enough to love in the face of loss? What I mean by that is every relationship you're going to be in, you're going to lose the partner. You're going to lose your partner. And that may not be until 50 years from now. But nonetheless, in a lifetime of love and loving now we're into love, but loving someone in that way, and then there's a loss. And so deep in, and this gets to the underworld, I guess, of the 8th house, is to me what's deep in the 8th house is loss. It's a series of losses of life. And can I continue to love in a series of losses of life? Now, when one has been betrayed, which is also part of the 8th house, very hard to love again.
Yeah.
But betrayal is, and this is the secret of the 8th house, if you will, because there's always secrets in the houses, is loving in the face of loss, but also recognizing that betrayal is coming to consciousness. We had a part to play in the betrayal.
Recognizing that betrayal
is a coming to consciousness.
Yeah. I want to hang out with that because it's so. God, I mean, it's the most charged thing, right? And that's why it's explored so much in myth. Theseus and Ariadne that you brought up earlier. Medea.
Your friend, Medea.
Yeah. Medea and Jason. And the way that resounds through myth, because there's something that we've got to spend some time with there. Betrayal and the coming to consciousness.
Let's go to Ariadne, because just the image. So there's Ariadne. Theseus, am I allowed to swear on your program?
Yes, you can swear, yeah. So
Theseus buggers off.
Oh, that's your swear word, bugger.
Buggers off, leaves her. Well, it's a very Australian word. They say that all the time.
It's a great word,
The Australians use it all the time.
Yeah.
We Canadians, of course, wouldn't swear on it. But, and so there he is. He buggers off with all his mates, and he's off on the ship going back. And there's Ariadne after a wonderful night in Naxos, wakes up all alone, betrayed. And, so it's like that waking up, in the Ariadne story, of course, the waking up to her sense of being betrayed. She's been betrayed. She's been left. She's been abandoned. All parts of the human experience. No one gets through life without that.
Yeah.
It's all part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Now, what we do, of course, is try not to have those experiences because we got some fantasy but we can never get into the ninth house unless we go through that.
Right.
So the ninth house that we were aiming for, I don't think can ever really be truly authentic unless we've really sorted that betrayed. And I come back to a client. I can always remember my early clients. They taught me so much. And he was in the ashram, and he used to meditate. And he had somehow got above his sexual, emotional attachments because he meditated, and he was a ninth house. Until one day, this gorgeous young woman walked into the ashram.
We can just hold that moment because we know that one. Yeah.
And that was the end of that. So this ability, this idea of transcending doesn't exist if you've been through the eighth house. Like, you don't transcend anything, and that's where you're going to the underworld.
You descend.
You descend. You're
in order to maybe transcend, but that would be something other than transcend, right? So we got the descend, transcend.
Yeah. Now you know why the ancients saw the eighth house as, they called it the idle place. Nothing much happens there.
Oh yeah,
and it was a bad place too. It was one of those bad houses.
Okay,
well,
yeah,
it's pretty bad when you think about it.
Yeah,
but it's what brings the soul to life.
Yeah.
It's the suffering of the soul. It's what we inherit. It's also a house of debt. I've seen so often with people, we're indebted in the eighth house. There is a debt. It's also not an inheritance. There's also a debt. And I think I'd ask people what the debt is that they owe.
That's a great question. Just lingering with that. Yeah. And also lingering with Ariadne as she's awoken on Naxos to feel herself. Like, really, actually, I really want to enter that moment because what has she done, Ariadne? She's fallen in love with the big heroic force that is Theseus, the big Athenian thinking man's hero that is Theseus. She's assisted him with a thread and saved his life and given him that essentially the magic talisman that will allow him to defeat the Minotaur, who is her brother or her half brother. So she's therefore betrayed the family secrets, right? She's betrayed the family. The family really wanted to keep the Minotaur in the labyrinth, and she was sort of, I can't do that anymore. I'm going to reveal this, using this hero essentially to reveal this. And then she can't stay there, which is often you get this theme in fairy tales as well. Can't stay here. There's too much damage. Leaves with the hero. As you said, has probably a wonderful night in Naxos and wakes up and there is no hero. The hero is gone. He is gone.
So Naxos to me is a wonderful image of the eighth house, awakening in Naxos. But what you've also demonstrated so well is the eighth house actually leads us back to the fourth house. You don't get to the eighth house, so you had to go through the fourth house. And what happened to Ariadne, she was unconscious of the reason the Minotaur is, of course, hidden in the labyrinth is because Mum's been having it off with the bull. But Mum had it off with the bull because Dad, tried to, fool the gods, and he couldn't.
Yeah.
So Dad kind of
in the name of power.
So Dad's the CEO. He's out there getting the power, the riches.
Yeah.
Poor old Mum. She's left at home, and she's got the curse is upon her. Yeah. The curse is upon her. She has it off with the bull. She gives birth, and everybody can see. So hide it away in the basement of the house. Now, here in Australia, they don't have basements, so it's all over the place most of the time. But and that's so there in the eighth house. That's what she meets.
Yeah.
it's just not her story.
Yeah.
It's her ancestor's story. That's all the stuff that never got. And the betrayal awakens all of that. The betrayal brings it to the... If we live in a world of good and bad, then this is very bad. But actually, it's also very good because it's both. It's very hurtful, very painful, but also brings a sense of resolution to the idea that we're incarnate. We're
What's the debt and the inheritance?
Yeah,
it's actually both of those occurring through Ariadne. Like this is her debt.
Yeah,
this is her family debt.
Yeah,
and this is also her inheritance, and something of the soul wanting to happen through her. I feel like her movement is from staring at the sea as she watches the ship go. Maybe at the moon set or the sunset or something like that. She's staring at the sea. She's on an island, so we don't know. Do we know which sea she's looking at? The Aegean?
Oh, she's looking at the Aegean. She's on that. And there's wonderful images of Ariadne. But as we speak about this, I'm thinking about, again, it's early on in my practice, I remember seeing a client who was in so much debt, but he was a criminal. He come out and was a criminal. He was a debt over. And this is where I learned about talking like the Pact 8th house and talking about that and talking about debt on how do we get into debt. It's very interesting. Of course, the 8th house is opposite from the 2nd, isn't it? So
yes, yeah. Indeed.
So we got that whole other
Here's
area
a new opposition
of another opposition, which is like, so the 8th house is our money. It's just not my money or your money; it's our money. And this is what's so interesting about relationships. I know so many relationships who still they have their own money. You pay for like. It's like I can't understand that. To me, it's like it's just our money. It's like our money.
Which is a way to keep out of the 8th, right?
Well, it's a way to keep out of the 8th.
It's a way. This is I'm a second over here. I go. This is mine.
Yeah,
that's Minos's story. I always think of mine and Minos. Like it's like that bull that he's told to. Poseidon's like, I showed them you're powerful with this, and he's like, but give it back to me now, and he cannot, right? Because it's mine.
It's mine. Yeah.
That's mine. That bull is mine.
And this is, we won't get into why the economy is not working, but the 8th house is also very much to do with trade and that sense of economy. And economy was once based on trust. And the economy was, or if I give you this, I know that you're going to give it to back. So if I lend you this money, I know you're going to give it to me back. But people don't know that anymore.
Yeah.
All the trust and all of that and all the things that are opposite represented by the 8th house aren't there anymore.
And actually, economics comes from eco and nomos.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's actually the balancing numbers of the earth herself. Yeah. It's the household. Yeah, but what is the household? It's the hearth. It's the earth. And the earth is imbalanced. So there's a whole other 8th house story.
Whole other 8th house story from how we share and how it's ours and that's how we love. It's very powerful. The 8th house is very powerful. That's why it's people are so interested.
It is a fascinating house.
It's amazing. All the water houses are fascinating because they plunge us into the paradox of life. There's the air houses going, if you just do this, it'll all be like if I just have a nice relationship and all that, and all of a sudden then you have
I'll do the right things and I'll keep everything above board. But
it is a fascinating house because there's a kind of a sense of confrontation with ourselves. And that's why, with the students, when we're doing timing, I'll always especially talk about planets moving through the 8th house. So if you had a progressed moon, for instance, going through the 8th house, generally it's going to take about 2.5 years. And a progressed moon moving through that 8th house, the progressed moon is this sense of mnemosiny, remembering and gathering and being able also in the second, after the age of 27 or so, being able to recognize that maybe I can now return to the original trauma and begin to really feel it for the first time in my life. And so there's a kind of a sense with that sense of the progressed moon going through the 8th confrontation. And Chris, I have seen so often, and of course you remember these stories, I'm sure there's a whole stories that aren't like this, but when the progressed moon or Saturn then touch that 9th house, there's almost like a kind of, freedom.
Yeah.
Something moves, something changes, something shifts. Because if a person's gone on that journey, there's another threshold after that journey, isn't there?
Yeah, thank the gods. And I'm now thinking about Ariadne as well, as she's staring at the sea, and that's the same sea that her father received from, and now she's given. Right, like
Yes,
actually, she's you know, because it's debt and sins are forgiven, aren't they? It's the same word, the same root, debt and sins. And what was received from the ocean by her ancestors is now given back in the form of this bull slaying hero of Theseus, who's now given back to the sea. Yeah. And she finds a bull god in Dionysus in the middle of that ocean.
She does.
Not the ocean. That was an interesting slip. In the middle of that island.
Yeah, in the middle of the island. But, well, also he is
in the middle of the ocean.
In the middle of the ocean, the islands. But there again, that then we moved to the 12th house. The resolution is the god comes.
Right.
Oh, I was originally meant to marry him. I was supposed to be with him.
Yeah,
that
wasn't
schlep.
Theseus. Yeah.
He was just, and that was always a joke when we looked at those houses and that story belongs to those houses. I think the joke was always like, oh yeah, in that there's certain generations where women would run off with the hero. They don't do that as much anymore, but they used to run off with the hero, and of course that would just never work out. But we have different versions of that. It's a wonderful story because she does wake up. But I liked your sense of it all happening there, all happening there, because we're going to go back to the story of Ariadne. So who's on that ship is her sister, Phaedra with Theseus, and they're going to end up together. Oh my God. That's where your story Hippolytus comes in.
Yes, and so a whole new story kind of emerges out of that, which is the Phaedra Hippolytus. So that curse of the family continues on with those cats. But Ariadne gives it back to the sea.
Yeah, she gives it back to the sea, and I forget who the author is, but she's written a whole other kind of version of it. There's a lot of these wonderful female authors that are writing a lot about myth.
Matt Miller and these kinds of characters. For sure. Yeah, reimaginings.
Yeah, reimagining them. So perhaps,
we have another threshold, don't we?
We have a threshold as we move, into, because it's a big threshold when you think about it. You move to this ninth house, which is, how would you describe it?
Oh, God. The rebirth? Another rebirth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, this is the most, to me, the ninth feels like the most genuine rebirth because of its positioning to the eighth.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where you've gone through the frickin', and I used frickin' there, I didn't go the other word. I could have, because we're allowed to on my podcast.
Are you?
Yes, we are allowed to, but I didn't just now because I'm with a Libran and I want to be polite.
That's right.
So
I'll be shocked.
You would be absolutely. I couldn't do it to you.
You know that every good Libran. Don't you know this secret about every?
Tell me the secret.
They usually have Venus or Mercury in Scorpio,
right.
or planet, or a strong Pluto. So, I mean, Librans are only polite Arians. That's all they are. They're the same.
Okay, we're getting distracted. So we're heading into this genuine rebirth place, because if we've been through the eighth and haven't skipped over it or said something happened there, but whatever, and we actually went like Orpheus, I'm thinking about, although he sort of, the cusp of the ninth is a tricky spot for him. He sung his way down into the underworld, He sung his way down and then made his return. Now, don't look back as interesting in this point, but I do think this moment where the ninth house is available, I think of, Pegasus is arriving into my mind, and the images of the spring or the eternal spring. It's like, wow, even with all of that, you said trauma, I might use the word wound as a replacement for trauma, because trauma has picked up so much cultural stuff, but wound is still a wound. And we've gone back to the wound in the eighth. That's the beauty of the eighth. We've opened it back up, and that's awful, but it happened. And we were able to look at it with some level of eighth house clarity. And then we hit this new cusp of rebirth. This is what I've got so far. What do you think?
Well, yes, I agree with you there, because I see that the cusp of the first, the fifth, and the ninth are very much different rebirths, aren't they?
Yeah.
This is a rebirth. So we had cusp of the first birth, born, physical birth.
Yeah.
You know, the leaving home, fourth
Yeah.
house, fifth house cusp, leaving home into kind of like my adolescence, my now this is a rebirth into, what could we say, spirit, or what could we say?
Yeah, spirit is a
Spirit.
good word, actually. It's
A
a word,
rebirth.
because I'm on the soul's terms, I don't use enough.
Yeah.
So I would like to talk about
Okay.
spirit here.
So it's a rebirth into spirit. You know, it's a rebirth from maybe soul. We're going up again now. See, so
Yeah.
soul goes down, spirit goes up. So we are, and don't forget, we're on the ninth house, and that was called the house of God, wasn't it? In the ancients, they called it the house of God, because you're just making a pinnacle. And it is a house God, because what do we find in the ninth house? Right, we find the ashram, and we find the synagogue. We find those places, because don't forget that the houses are places. The ninth house places are these places that we find that inspire us, that move us. That's why we call it the house of higher learning. Higher learning these days doesn't inspire many people, but if you can still find the places of higher learning, be it a community house, it could be a kindergarten. It doesn't have to be fancy. If it's in that place that you are inspired to create, to create your relationship to the God, that God is going to move through you. It's like almost like we started our conversation today with ninth house matters, I think. We were talking about the philosophy of life, the love of the logos of life. And that's what we find in the ninth house, I feel.
Yeah, it's almost like we've maybe Aphrodite Urania or something like that, right? Like we've suddenly drawn into the beauty of it all. I mean, just with that wide-eyed wonder of how incredible it all is.
Yeah. It's also, it's what Glenys my wife Glenys would say about the ninth house. It's the place beyond that coherent way of thinking of the world. So it's like it's beyond the coherence of the third or even the sixth house. It's beyond that. It's foreign. So the ninth house is foreign. And that's what's so interesting. Like so many people I see with the moon and ninth house that live in foreign places. If you've got a planet or any ninth house, if you're in the ninth house, you love what's foreign.
Yeah.
Let's have something. Let's have some foreign food, or let's speak another language, or let's delve into something that's really different. And that can still be something in English, but it's so different to me that it's just so engaging and opens my world up to something I could have never seen before. Never, ever.
Yeah. Whole new customs, whole new ways, and so it's opening the mind. It's the openness of experience and again that wonder. And I like what you said, higher learning and bringing a sense of reverence to that, because that's been that's gone through a lot, but still. There's still something about a really well put together university campus.
Oh, wow.
Last year when I was here, we went to university where you studied the classics, and it was beautiful to walk through there, even though they'd taken all those books from the old. Brian,
I remember that. There we go.
Brian really wanted me to show me this section where there's a library and all of the
medical library. The
medical library where all the old
ancient
books
texts.
were, the ancient texts. And we got there and they were, it was under construction.
I remember that now. My goodness. God, you brought back a memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under construction, and we didn't know where the books were, and we didn't know what they were making.
They're all making them digital. And there was no longer going to be that smell or those old. I remember opening the books and the smell, and the old pages were also yellowed and torn. And, so many people had looked at them. It's like, I'm thinking about.
Participated in it, used their hands. Yeah.
But the ninth house, I mean, I think even if I may say in a digital world, as long as that world is opening us up to worlds that we have not but really that explore, and they inspirit the world. It's like when the world is, we know when the world is ensouled. We love what we do. We're able to sort of move with the difficulty. But when a world is inspirited, we are inspired to change it, to improve. When I say improve it, you know what I mean? To
make it more beautiful.
Make it more beautiful, absolutely.
Yeah.
Make it more beautiful. Make it more accessible.
Participate in the beauty creation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the world is longing for that, and we're longing to assist,
We're longing to assist.
Yeah.
And that's why they saw the sun, I guess, as the joy of the ninth house, because there is a lot of enjoyment. For me, I know I love travel. I love seeing different things. I love being in a foreign marketplace. I love haggling. I love being foreign.
Yeah.
And when you're foreign, you're free. It's like even though people don't still say to me, "Are you American?" And I do respond to that. But I even though they may still say that to me, I still I feel foreign. I feel free. I'm not bound. I'm not bound by the standards that most Australians are, because I don't know. Oh, I don't know that person. Here's a famous person I've never heard of before, but that it's in the culture.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of sense of being free of a cultural standard, but still being part of a culture. That's what's so wonderful about the ninth house. It's just freedom to be part of a free culture.
It's so interesting because some of the images of the ninth feel like wide-eyed wonder and almost like a youthful component to it. But there's also the professor up here too, right? Like one who professes to know, because this is a house of knowing. It's like saying, actually, I've been through 8 houses before I got here. You know what I mean? Like I have something to share.
Yeah.
I profess to know.
Yeah. Well, again, I would say it's a house of not knowing.
Of course. But I mean, that's the tension, isn't it? Ninth, third.
Yeah. Yeah. Because profess is such an interesting word, isn't it? Professor, to profess. Because what it's, I would say it's more the house of education. That in the true sense, because education in its true sense means to bring it out of me. Yeah. So really good. The professors that we always remember are the ones who inspired us. Yeah. The ones who brought something out in us. Those are and I can remember some of those teachers even in primary school. So they're still in a way ninth house to me, because they took me beyond anything in the book, anything in they brought me into life experience. They showed me their life experience, which was amazing and inspiring. And they always, I guess those kind of individuals, they're like monoliths along the way that we can still look at. We can say, oh, well, he would have been my age, when you get to, that kind of age and you're thinking. So they become very, very important, these professors. And
what is it? Do you know the root of profess? Is it, because I'm thinking about there's confess.
The confess,
and there's profess.
I did once. We must look that up. Yeah. And the ninth house is about the sense of philosophy and that sense of, I'm thinking about the T.S. Eliot quote, can't come to mind right now, but, there's thinking and knowing, and then there's the thinking, learning, knowing, wisdom, so really the ninth house is approaching wisdom. It's I don't know if it's quite wisdom yet, but it's on the precipice of learning, because spirit actually is still going to be learning. So it's not quite wisdom, but it's getting all the kind of things that help us to become wise.
And I think about philosophy, and obviously we know that's love of Sophia.
Yeah, that's right.
So before we say love of wisdom, it's the love of the goddess in a way. It's it's kind of a direct suspect to the muses, doesn't it? And to be truly, that's a marriage in itself, isn't it? That's a loyalty, fidelity to truth, beauty, wisdom.
Yeah, that's exactly ninth house. It's the law courts as well. Remember all the law courts used to have that above it?
Of course, yeah.
It's very interesting to think that at one point we used to see the law courts as, or a university. before they took away the medical library. There's kind of a sense when it was. But let's not go there. But let's still hold that as images.
Yeah.
What did you say? Truth, justice, beauty.
I didn't say justice, but let's leave it in there.
Okay. What did you say? Truth,
beauty, wisdom. I think I said
and justice. Yeah. They're all sort of. You say what we're talking about now is virtues of life, aren't we?
The virtuous.
There's a kind of virtue, but not virtue like I'm a good person because I went to church and I put some money in the collection box. It's a virtue. It's a.
There is a return to innocence here, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like having gone through so much in the eighth, I think, and being in some ways cleansed. And I think this is back to Ariadne. I'm only recognizing this, or this is emerging from this conversation of when she's releasing back to the ocean the bull-slaying god, the bull-slaying demigod of Theseus. She's giving it back to the ocean what her father took from the ocean. She's giving back. There's like a cleansing and a releasing, and it's painful as all hell, in that releasing. But then when she comes into the ninth, she is free of it. She has a freedom, like what you're saying, like the energy of the freedom of travel and being overseas and being in a new culture is like, I can be free of this. I remember an experience I had in Taiwan where I crashed my motorcycle on the way home at 3 a.m. And I flipped over a car and landed on my back. And when I stood up from that, I had a sort of temporary amnesia. And I remember the experience because then I was looking up at the street signs and they were in Chinese, but I was convinced that this is a language I've forgotten how. I forgot. I used to know it and now it's suddenly gone.
Oh, wow.
And so I had the experience of being truly reborn into the moment where if I stayed with it, I was in an absolute bliss state of, I knew I was me, but I didn't know which chapter of life I was in. Wow. I didn't know, I didn't have any relationship to anything and anyone. And it was like this edge of where that was terrifying on the one hand and totally freeing on the other, like an experience that I felt so open to, like, what will happen now? Yeah.
Wow.
A beauty within that. And it took about 30 to 40 minutes for my memory to come back.
Yeah.
And then it was like all of the layers of memory were coming back, all of the layers of life were coming back on. But without that, I was free. I was free of the self.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. It's powerful. As you're speaking, of course, I'm thinking about the power of remembering and the power of forgetting.
Yes.
And what I hear you saying is in the ninth house, it's not a power of forgetting, but in a way there is a power of forgetting here.
It gave me the opportunity to remember something else.
Yes, exactly. Because that's the point. The point really is that the ninth house is the initiation into the bigger other world. It's the initiation into the transpersonal world, into the larger world. And of course that initiation is a birth. So that birth is of course immediate and it's exciting and spirited but it is into the other way of knowing the world.
Yeah.
And that's where you have it when you read a book or that inspires you, or you go overseas, or you really, really, I guess, reflect and consider. I think consider is a good word.
Consider, yeah.
For the
with the stars?
Yeah, consider to be with the stars, yeah. To be, and the stars really is a sense of the constellation of meaning. Which is really, that's what the ninth house is, the search for meaning, the quest, the quest. Idea of I'm going on quest. I'm going to go to the ashram. I'm going to go to the astrology class. I mean, a lot of people just I'll just do this, and I'll just do that because my friends do it, and they sit in the class and they, my God, what astrology and stuff like that. Oh, and then others go, oh God, so there's a kind of a sense that we all find our own way to be in that sense of the ninth. I guess what could we call it? The monasteries of life, the ashrams of life, the colleges of life.
And we move to the next threshold. So we which is the big this is the the highest point, isn't it? The nadir, the
the nadir is the lowest point.
That's the lowest point. Well, what's the opposite of nadir?
The nadir, well, the midheaven. It's,
The
in fact,
midheaven.
the 10th house is called the place of the midheaven. So we call it, the IC is the immune colli, and above is the highest point in the sky. High, low. That's what they refer to.
So we reach the highest point in the sky, the apex, the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
The MC.
The MC.
The new threshold, and from here we're entering the 10th.
And we cross the meridian now, and the meridian is a whole different axis. It's like, if you think of Da Vinci's, man, you think of the ascendant descendant as his arms, outstretched, and you think of the MCIC as his spinal column. So those are the four directions of life as well. But you're going up and down, like, so the MCIC axis is very powerful. You cross into the 10th. You're at as you said, the peak of the mountain. Yeah. Where else is there to go?
Right.
Where else is there to go?
You've met Zeus up there, and then you're going to head into the 10th.
The 10th. So to me, it was always a house of a vocation in its truest sense. The calling, the sense of the vocation being that ability to hear, one's own inner voice, if you will. To follow a path. So I've often when I look at a chart, still to this day, I look and I can see the MC and I see like a path going out into the world, and I can just imagine, and I fantasize about walking along that path. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like the MC is like a kind of a path into the world. Like it's a spire on a church. It's the highest point on the...
Yeah, it's interesting because as I'm sitting here contemplating this, I'm thinking about like how much of the vision we get in the night takes us up to the MC. But I was just contemplating, like, we are on the way down though. So once, we've suddenly gone over and we get into the 10th. So I was just thinking then I hadn't been able to put those images together maybe till this moment where I'm thinking about then having seen the vision, we find a path back to where we are.
Yeah.
Through the 10th. And that's the calling, right? Some part of us has actually seen and envisioned where we're meant to go, but then has to take a path back down the hill to where we are to give us a path up the hill.
Yeah. Well, because we're now dealing in two worlds, aren't we? We're dealing with the vocation, which is the calling to something higher, bigger, whatever. But then we're also we're incarnate, so we do have to take that path down and do something about it.
Yeah.
In the ancient, they often, I would say about 8, I think I looked at so many books. I did a research myself on this. And I would say about 80% of the ancient books and modern, and into the modern, see the 10th house also as mother. I mean, you think about that, the mother of the world.
Right.
You could think about the great mother. But, I don't like to put the 4th, 10th into mother, father, because I see them as an axis of parents.
Yes.
Kind of, you could see inner and outer. And that's where we get to the 10th house in traditional astrology, as sort of being a kind of a house of status, don't we? Like, who are you? It's like the public persona. Who are you in the world? Well, I am, a CEO, or I'm this. And a kind of identity in the world that isn't really about what one does. It's who one is. But we don't have a lot of, I guess, labels for who we are in the world. We have a lot of labels for what we are in the world.
A lot of this is making me think about in service to the mother as well in the 10th house and that sort of complexity. So if we have this big, inspired vision, how do we put that in service in a way? It's like we enter another earth house, and it's kind of like, how do we give that to the service into the world or into the earth? And then also, how do we connect with that to the 4th and who we truly are? And then there's so much complexity in all of that process, isn't there?
Totally.
It's not an easy, it's a wrestling match in a way.
But one of the words oftentimes used with the 10th house was, like you just reminded me of that, with the word contribution. It's how we contribute. And,
Right.
and the word contribute's interesting. Contribute. To be with our own tribute. So many people want to be acknowledged.
Right. But
there's only one person who could acknowledge you at the 10th house.
to be with your tribute.
It's only
Because it's a house where we have to learn to be in a way without that recognition and approval.
Absolutely.
Where we have to be like, it's okay because this is who I am,
And you know what? Even though it's the one that's outside in the world, it's the highest, that's the top, it's the highest point in the sky, and 10th house, everything's rising up to that. The irony is that all these random acts of kindness and generosity are often done by people we can't see. I often think about that, so our culture teaches us, to be successful, you got to do this and that, and this is it. And you're successful because you won the Nobel Peace Prize, you got a gold medal, and it's kind of ironic. I'm thinking about a lot of people I've seen. I remember seeing, actually, she had won a gold medal in skating many years ago. Client, she had 4 planets of Capricorn in the 10th house. That's the last thing she wanted to actually be, because that had all been forced upon her by pressure, family, this, family, that.
Yeah.
So it's like oftentimes, the kind of unlived life that of parents that Jung often talked about, the unlived life of parents, the ancestry, the culture that forces us into a particular role in life, a particular path. I often tease, please don't take this to heart. This is a teasing. I often tease that, the Jewish people, the kids booked into, ballet school before they're even 3 months in the womb. The kind of sense of the expectations of not just parents, but culture upon us are so large. It's this weight that descends upon us on the MC. But our task of the 10th house is to find out who we are.
And be shaped. Let that self be shaped by the world.
It's a wonderful word shape.
Yeah.
Be shaped.
Yeah. Like character.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a defining of the character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
10th house.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of skills there. So it's like how we use that house becomes very important.
Yeah.
Powerful, powerful place. And then we go into the 11th house, and I guess in the 11th house, when we think about, that's where we meet the equals of our world, like our colleagues. True. Like there's so many people that it's very interesting who we consider colleagues.
Right.
Yeah, and it changes throughout life, I think.
Yeah.
Because I often used to tease that, with the students, a lot of times people try to get to the 10th house by going through the 11th house. When we're in the 11th house, it's like, what I mean was, if I join this organization and do well in this organization, I'll get some kudos.
Yeah.
Whereas, actually the truth is, hold it, it's what we've done in the world that we can now contribute. That's the 11th house. The house of democracy, demos, the people. Yeah?
Demos.
Yeah, demos.
Power to the people house.
It's a power to the people house.
Yeah.
And that's why good old Jupiter used to have its joy there, didn't it? They used to call that the place of good spirit. So now we've had this sense of the entry of the spirit in the cusp of the 9th house. We talked about that, didn't we? And of the spirit that we can give back to the world.
It's like we get our fellows here. Yeah.
Fellows.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We see the people in the world that we meet, we relate to, a sense of, that's why they call it the house of friends.
There's a lot of respect in this house. The more, as I'm in here wandering around, I'm feeling the respect that you have for these others that have also made their tribute, right?
Yeah, it's a very interesting sense of feeling one belongs in a community. It's a communal place, but community in the spirit of community, where community is we're all equals in this. You might be the billionaire and I might have not a lot, but we're equal because what I can do with my hands, you can do something else. And so all our resources, it's got nothing to do with, like, that's why I loved our astrology classes. People wouldn't know sitting in our astrology classes. I remember there was the psychiatrist. Nobody knew he was a psychiatrist. I knew, but and then then there was people, women with lots of kids, and then there was students, and then there was CEOs. Mm-hmm. One time there was a nun sitting in the class, and so here it was in a class, and I loved it. That's the 11th house, and they all would go out for a drink after class, or they'd all talk to each other, and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah,
who didn't matter? Who didn't matter? Nobody talked about what kind of money they had or what house they had. They talked about the resources of life that they could share.
I'm thinking about rich, like this word, like it's very rich there, but the richness is coming from the allowance of all sorts of different things to be in the melting pot together. All sorts of different, I guess, places within society, because power to the people. It is a democratic house. And Jupiter in its joy there makes a lot of sense, and the place of the good spirit.
Place of the good spirit's a funny way of saying it, because then they also have the place of the bad fortune on the other side. But,
right.
but the place of the good spirit, and then we'll get the place of the bad spirit. But I just think that's a kind of way of thinking about being human.
Or even just coming together in good spirit, like this idea of approaching in good faith.
Yeah.
All the different opinions and places that we come from, and God, do we need that? Yeah. It's also community and communitas, right?
Yes,
like it's this idea of forming, and I think that's what the Chiron Center that you're referring to was, right? As far as like a coming together of people in really good faith, of like, hey, whatever it is, let's look at the stars together. Yeah. Which was a great smokescreen for like, let's look at each other.
Yeah. Well, and the word commune is part of community, and commune is to also communicate. And so there's a communion in the 11th house that has nothing to do with anything that's external or organized. It's organic. And so there's an organicness to the 11th house, which is why we form, friendships. And I think why too, in any of those houses, and I think about it, you can never judge anybody's relationship, because you don't know where they're meeting. Yeah. And the communion that they have. They might look like a funny pair. They might always be arguing, but you can never judge any of that, because there's a true communion happens on a whole different level, doesn't it, of spirit? Yeah,
for sure. And then we're finally going to go one more down into the 12th. Where are we heading?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it feels like we've rushed and we've gone overtime. It feels like but that's the 12th house. We brushed through the last few ones, but.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to, but I am really conscious of time.
Yeah, well, of course. But the thing is, what's interesting about that, I'm just thinking, why did that happen, is because it happens on another level, these houses, 9th to 12th. It's this transpersonal level. So when we enter the 12th house, which is the ancients called that the joy of Saturn, didn't they? But I think what I want to say about the 12th house, we have this idea of hospitals and asylums. What I'd like to say about the 12th, because of time, is, we see it as a house of asylum. Now, if you really think about the word asylum, there's different ways of thinking about this word. Actually, it means to be safe from seizure.
Safe from seizure.
But if we go right back to the idea of asylum, it was meant to be a sanctuary, a place of sanctuary, as a hospice. And it was basically, if you look at the Romulus asylum in ancient Rome, it was a place where the homeless could come, like slaves that had actually run away from their, masters or whatever. Yeah. And there was a place in the middle of Rome where they found this sense of asylum. They were safe. So the homeless were safe. And, we get the word hospital comes from the word host, and hospice, ghost. They're all the same, ghost and host. So I like to think of the 12th house as both ghosts and hosts. And the ghosts are still, we've been through that whole cycle. We haven't cleared everything up yet. We have Saturn 3 times in a lifetime, and we'll never, even in this life, probably clear it all up. But so we do have the ghosts, and they're there. But the ghosts are very kind of powerful in the 12th house, because we don't forget, it's a house we've just woken up to. Any planet is in the 12th house is just woken up from the dream or woken up into the day. And so there are things that linger. But it's still the sense that we have a sense of hospice in the 12th house. There is a place of where the homeless parts of ourself, where the parts that don't fit in, the parts that have escaped, the parts that are just waking up, we need to keep them in a sense of sanctuary and safety. Why? Because I think those are really big parts of the journey we're on. They're highly creative. They're creative parts of ourselves. There's no doubt about it.
And if we give them a sanctuary in the middle of the city, in the center, what a beautiful place to host them, rather than having them become eccentric. Because they are eccentric elements of ourselves, I'm sure, but eccentric meaning off on the edge.
They are.
But how do you think, I guess this is the question of the 12th. How do you bring things that are off on the edge into the middle? How do you give them a home in the middle, a sanctuary in the middle of your own soul?
Maybe that's your next podcast. And the impossible question. Well, see, I think what you've asked out of the 12th is a question of a 12th house question. How do we ensoul the exiled parts of ourselves? How do we ensoul the parts that are homeless? How do we, we hold them dear. We hold them dear. We don't excommunicate them ourselves. Because they don't fit in, or we don't, it's like, we talk to the ghosts because they have something to say. And of course, the 12th house is a great house of ancestry, like the 4th and the 8th. But the ancestors of the 12th, what are so different about them? They're usually not locatable. They're there, but we're never going to find them. They're invisible. They're ghostly. They have a story, but they haven't told us a full story. It's like that's going on in my family right now. We just didn't discovering a whole other ancestor who we'll never know the whole story for. But boy, the little bit of the story we found out is pretty interesting.
Oh, really?
But the whole thing is that we can't know everything. So we lapse into this sea of mystery. We go back to the collective. This is the house, the collective unconscious, they call it. I mean, I think all houses are unconscious. All houses can be collective, but this especially itself houses a great collective spirit. And we can't know it all. We can only be in it all. So I guess part of the question is, how do we be with these homeless parts of ourselves? How do we find a refuge for them, a sanctuary for them, a kind of meditation chamber for them?
Because I'm never going to have enough information for them.
Never.
And I think that maybe a nice image to round us out is that Ariadne has stared at the ocean.
Yes.
And she's surrendered and forgiven. She's given that ship back to the sea, and she turns around and goes to the center of Naxos, or moves her way into the middle. And discovers the Dionysian principle of being at the middle of it all, being in the middle of it all.
Being part of it all.
And part of it all.
being part of it all, being an essential part of it all. It's the 12th house, I think, is that we are, each and every one, an essential part of the whole.
And I've always found that her journey into the middle of Naxos is a mystery, and a mysterious journey that she takes as she turns her back on the heroic and enters something else.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Professor Chris. Professor Chris. Well, that was more. It's hard to end. See, that's the other thing about the 12th house. It is a house of ending.
Yes.
So we like the fourth acre. So it is a house of ending, but you're not. The good news is you're not ending.
Yes.
The houses, you're just halfway through.
Yes, that's right.
That's right.
Yes,
so you're going to continue.
I've gotten all wistful over here, but actually it's not over.
No, it's not over yet, and it's not over. You're going to continue. I won't be there, but you'll continue. I'll be dropped off, slung off the ship, and you'll continue.
You'll always be ensouled in the podcast, Brian. Well, thank you so much for giving generously of your time and a little overtime to our podcast today, Brian. It's so wonderful to sit in I think you said it was like about 20% of your library that is around us, but amazing books that are all around us.
Yeah, I've kept the good ones. Yeah.
And just behind your head is The Voices of Time.
Oh, The Voices of Time. That's a great book.
The Voices of Time.
But also St. Francis is one of mine.
So,
St. Francis.
I guess we have given some voice to time, or some version of time.
Well, time's disappeared, hasn't it?
It has disappeared.
That's the other thing about time. 12th house time is eternal time.
It slips us by.
It's eternal. It's eternal. So we have to do temporal time and say adieu.
Yes, we do. Well, thank you for joining us, and happy birthday from the entire audience that enjoys your contributions to the show over the years. And it was a pleasure to sit down with you again. Okay. I know it won't be the last time, but I'm in a wistful 12th house place. So I'm speaking to you from there.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to On the Soul's Terms podcast. To support the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review, sharing with friends, or becoming a patron at patreon.com/onthesoulsterms. Until next time.